Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal. I just thought I'd pop back on, do another one of my videos. It's been a while now, I think it's been over a week since my last one, so I thought it was about time I popped back up and just gave you a basic update about where we are at Arsenal right now. Where we are is closing in on a return to Premier League football, only less than 2 weeks away now till Arsenal's fairly daunting trip to Manchester City, let's say. As the Premier League restarts on June 17th on the Wednesday night, and Arsenal will be the second game that day, and it will be Arsenal's game in hand, and we will kick off properly the following weekend. So we're not far away now from Premier League returning, and Arsenal are going to be involved on that first night. As I said, daunting trip to Manchester City. It's not really the game you want to ease your way back into things after a few months off, but it's what Arsenal are going to have to put up with. And I suppose you can look at it two ways. I think it's a very tough game for Arsenal, but you can also look at it and think Manchester City probably won't be as sharp and as good as they normally are, considering they've had a long time off as well. So maybe it's an opportunity for Arsenal, although Man City will have a lot of players back that they weren't going to have involved in the original game, which was suspended just before the whole of football went into shutdown. That's why Arsenal are playing this match on the Wednesday night as well, sort of playing the game in hand after that game was called off. I think it was the day before Arteta tested positive, wasn't it? It was on the Wednesday night they were supposed to be playing. Arteta tested positive on the Thursday. So yeah, that's where we are. Arsenal back in full contact training. Obviously, that started last week. Players really enjoying themselves. From what I hear, just delighted to be back at London Colney. Delighted to be back at full contact training. I think you've probably seen a few of the videos that Arsenal have tweeted out, the sort of behind the scenes type videos that Arsenal have tweeted out from training, and the players certainly seem to be enjoying themselves. As I said, they're allowed in full contact now. Once training stops, not so much. Then you've still got the social distancing in place, which might sound a little bit stupid considering they've just spent the last 2 hours on the pitch tackling each other, grappling it during set piece sessions and things like that. But I still think it's very different when you're out on the training pitch in close proximity for each other for a very brief amount of time than if you're, say, sitting in a lunch hall at London Colney for half an hour, 40 minutes next to each other. Obviously, you've got a lot more chance of catching anything. But as I said, the virus testing continues rigorously at all football clubs. Twice a week, squads are being tested, and the numbers are really, really low. I think in the last 2 rounds of testing, which is over 2,000 staff and players tested, only one has tested positive for COVID-19. So that's very, very promising in terms of the restart in the Premier League, which, like I said, it's only a couple of weeks away. So that's where we are really with Arsenal. There are probably going to be a couple of friendlies played between now and that game against Manchester City on the Wednesday. We're not sure who Arsenal are going to be playing yet. West Ham is a strong possibility. There's some sort of strict rules in place with these friendlies that the Premier League have allowed before the restart, but clubs can't travel further than 90 minutes away to play a team, and players aren't going to go on a team coach or anything like that. They've all got to go individually in their own cars, drive themselves to the game. Sort of close proximity matches are certainly the more appealing options for clubs. And West Ham, like I said, is looking. It's a fairly strong possibility. Whether that's going to take place at a stadium, either London Stadium or Emirates, not so sure yet. It could also happen at a training ground. Clubs are sort of talking to the Premier League about the guidelines and things. I think a lot was decided at yesterday's, which is Thursday's shareholder meeting in the Premier League. I don't think they're going to be publicised friendlies or anything like that. I think clubs, from what I hear, are a little bit worried about, possibly if it's a game at a training ground, fans turning up or trying to turn up and hang around outside the ground and things like that. So I don't think it's going to be publicised. Whether they show any highlights or anything like that if they're recorded, I don't know after the game itself. But I don't think you're going to be hearing too much about them before the matches take place, just because of security fears and things like that. But there should be a couple of friendlies. Arsenal, last I heard when I spoke to someone, they were planning on at least 2 in the short time frame. So you'd think one of those could even be this weekend or possibly at the start of next week, and then another one the following weekend ahead of the game. Manchester City. It's going to be a busy start for Arsenal. They've got Manchester City first up, and then it looks like they're going to have 2 games very in close proximity from that Wednesday night match. I think you kind of hope that maybe the Premier League were going to help clubs to sort of ease into things, given it's been such a long wait between games, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen at all. And I think that's why a lot of medics are pretty fearful about what might happen, given players haven't played for too long, they're not going to have a proper pre-season, maybe a couple of behind closed doors friendlies, but then getting thrown straight into the competitive Premier League action, there could be a chance of injuries, and we've seen that so far over in Germany, where the league's restarted as well, that players are picking up injuries at a higher rate. So that's going to be something Arsenal are going to have to manage. And looking at the sort of first few round of fixtures, like I said, they've got the Manchester City game on the Wednesday night, and then it's scheduled to be Brighton on the Saturday, which is a 3 p.m. kickoff by the looks of it. It hasn't been totally confirmed yet by the Premier League, but these are the matches that we've seemed to think is going to be the case. It's going to be Manchester City Arsenal on a Wednesday night, then Brighton versus Arsenal on the Saturday at 3 p.m. And then it's going to be, I think, Southampton away on the Tuesday night for Arsenal. So that's 3 games in 6 days to kick things off. Not ideal, like I said, but it's what they're going to have to work with. And it's certainly going to be a lot of football for us to watch. And given we've seen nothing for such a long period of time, it's going to be nice to suddenly have a lot of Arsenal to talk about. As is the way with football, even though we're in the middle of a massive financial crisis, which I think we saw yesterday, Tottenham having to borrow 175 million from the Bank of England, Daniel Levy admitting that they're on course for about a loss of about 200 million for the year end in June 2021. Lots of Arsenal fans laughing about that when I put it out on my Twitter yesterday, but I just calmed down that laughter, because Arsenal are not far off that. And these sort of working towards numbers focused on there going to be no fans throughout next season. Now, that might not be the case. Fans might be allowed in after Christmas, so they might get the first half of the season behind closed doors. But if the whole of the season is behind closed doors, Arsenal could be on for a loss of just shy of £150 million themselves. So that's the implications that COVID has brought. Loss of matchday revenue, loss of commercial revenue, broadcasting revenue, everything like that combined. It's really, really serious stuff. But despite all that, transfers continue to dominate. We've seen Chelsea, looks like they've snapped up Timo Werner in a fantastic deal for them. Looked like he was going to Liverpool for a long, long time. Liverpool pulled out again because of financial implications by COVID. Of course, by COVID, decided not to meet Werner's release clause, and Chelsea have now nipped in and got him done. And when you think they've signed Ziyech as well, it's very good early business. And I think Chelsea are one of the clubs, given who owns them, given the money that Abramovich has got, you sort of look at those clubs that got a real opportunity to take advantage of this situation with COVID now, because probably not going to feel the financial implications like some of the other clubs. And Chelsea obviously have had a transfer ban, so haven't spent money on transfers for the last couple of windows, so they've got a lot sitting in the pot, and they've already started to flex their financial muscles. At Arsenal, it's going to be different. I've already spoken about that in these videos before, trying to sort of set the level of expectations for what Arsenal can expect in the transfer window. From what I understand, from what I'm told, they still want to get business done, but there's just a lot of scenarios that they're working towards. I've actually written a piece that's gone live on goal.com this morning, which is Friday. So please, once you've watched this video, if you haven't seen that piece yet, it's also been pushed out on my Twitter account. Go and have a read of it. That's me trying to explain the different scenarios Arsenal are facing in this window and the difficulties they're going to run into trying to get deals done for some of their key targets. And it's going to be difficult, but again, I do believe Arsenal will do business this summer. It's just a case of how much business they can do, how much money they're going to have to play with, how clever they're going to be in the market in terms of talking to various clubs about swap deals or even loan deals. So they are going to have to get creative, not just Arsenal, all clubs, pretty much. It's going to be a really creative market, because it's going to be a slowed down market financially. So if clubs are going to get deals done, they're going to have to be creative, and they're going to have to like I said, I think we're going to see a lot more swap deals and maybe a lot more loan deals with the high level clubs, which isn't always the case. So if Arsenal, I'll just go through a few of the sort of headlines that have popped up in the last couple of days, tell you what I know about them all. Orkun Kokcu, the young Feyenoord sort of attacking midfielder, he's been linked with Arsenal before. Arsenal got long-term interest in Kokcu. I know that for certain. They've been watching him a lot this season. Young, teenage, 19 I think he is, attacking midfielder, sort of plays number 10 for Feyenoord, can play off the left, can also play slightly deeper role as well. He's had a very good season for Feyenoord for such a young player. Arsenal like him. They think he's got huge amounts of potential. I spoke to Jaap Stam about Kokcu last month. I think I ran a story on goal.com about it because Stam, who's now just taken a job as head coach at FC Cincinnati in MLS, started the season as head coach at Feyenoord and was the manager really who really sort of thrust Kokcu into the first team. He had played a little bit before Stam arrived, but Stam saw him in the summer, really liked him straight away, and just threw him straight in, and he sort of flourished under Stam. So I spoke to Stam about him and about Arsenal, and whether he thinks he could, hit the ground running and make an impact at Arsenal, and he absolutely does. Stam said he's got the talent to succeed at Arsenal, succeed at the Premier League, but you're going to have to give him time to adjust because he's such a young player. He's only had one full season really in senior football in Holland, so coming to the Premier League is obviously a big level, big step up. And so Stam was kind of tempering the expectations a little bit, saying, look, if it does happen, if Arsenal do get a deal done, which would be for around sort of 20 million mark, from what I'm led to believe, if it does happen, then Kokcu could make an impact in England. He's got the qualities. He's a tireless worker. He's very creative. Got an eye for goal, eye for a pass. Like I said, can play in a couple of positions across the front line or slightly deeper if needs be. So it's an interesting one to watch out for. Feyenoord, from what I understand, need money. Most clubs do at the moment. Arsenal are looking for a sort of long-term successor to maybe Mesut Ozil, who I do expect to still be here next season, because Arsenal find it incredibly hard to shift him. But they're certainly looking at the options. Obviously, you've got Emile Smith-Rowe on loan at Huddersfield at the moment. He's another option. I don't think Kokcu will be absolutely Arsenal's priority this summer. I think they're looking more at a real sort of out-and-out box-to-box midfielder, as well as a centre-back and a right-back when it comes to real out-and-out priorities. But I think if the opportunity arises and they can get a deal done for Kokcu, I think they will try to get it done. And like I said, around the sort of 20 million mark, maybe slightly less if they can. They'll do all they can to make it less, I'm sure. But there's a strong interest in Kokcu as a player they like. Feyenoord are well aware of Arsenal's interest. I think Dick Advocat, who's the head coach there, he admitted it a while ago. Jaap Stam knew about it at the start of the season, so the interest is there. It's just whether Arsenal decide to push the button and really try and get the deal done. But his name certainly popped up in the last couple of days. Reports in Holland saying that Arsenal are ready to submit an official offer. I'm still not convinced about that. I might be wrong, but I think Arsenal, when it comes to the transfer market, a lot depends on what happens in the next couple of months. Because there's so much uncertainty when it comes to how much money they're going to have to spend. They don't even know where they're going to finish this season. If they do, although they're 5 points off fifth, which fifth obviously might be enough for a Champions League spot this season. It's a big gap, but it's not a massive gap. They can make that up, even though at the moment they're ninth. And if they were to qualify for the Champions League, that will make a huge difference in terms of what they can do in the transfer market this summer, because money is going to be so tight. Because of what's happening, because of basically the tap has been switched off for the last few months. They've been getting no revenue in, but they're still having to spend an awful lot of money. The wage bill's huge every single month, and although players have accepted a wage cut, it's only a minimal. It's only 12.5%. It's nothing really. And so Arsenal's still got a huge outlay every single month, and they've got no money coming in to fund it. And Stan Kroenke, although he's going to provide guarantees basically for a club, if they're going to have to take loans and things like that, he'll guarantee that the club aren't going to suddenly go bust, but he's not going to be ploughing his own money into transfer fees or anything like that. So I think I'd be surprised if Arsenal do a Chelsea and really get deals done early before the season ends, just because of the financial picture and the uncertainty and the fact they don't know what European competition, if any, they're going to be playing in. I think until they do, then they can really start being a lot more aggressive in the market and knowing what they can do. But I think for now it's very difficult for them to really commit to anything, because they just don't know what their revenue streams are going to be like next season. They don't know if they're going to be in the Champions League, which could, even if they got to say the quarter-final stage, could bring in £80 million or something like that. Or if they're going to be in the Europa League, which even if they get to the final, it's not much. It's only about 30 34 million I think they got last year from getting to the Europa League final, and although that's minimal compared to what they could get just from basically scraping out the group stages in the Champions League, it's still a valuable amount of money, especially now when there's not much revenue coming in. So it's really difficult to plan for the transfer window when you don't know at all what sort of money you're going to be receiving next season. So I think the picture will become a lot clearer over the next couple of months. That's why I think the next couple of months are so important to Arsenal on the pitch, because they've still got a real opportunity to push on and try and get in the Champions League. And if not, they've got to make sure they get in the Europa League. I think if they finish outside European places altogether, that's the worst case scenario for Arsenal. It really is, because there's just going to be no money coming in from European competitions. Playing a large chunk of the season next season behind closed doors, and financially it's going to make a huge impact. It's the next 2 months are really important for Arsenal. We also don't know what's going to be happening with Aubameyang. I mean, when I talk about these possible transfers and possible what money could be available, obviously you can sell players to raise funds, and some of those funds could be put back into bringing players in. Now, there's plenty of players who Arsenal could look to sell this summer. Absolutely open to offers for some of the defenders. Socrates, Shotram, Mustafi. I mean, we've been open for offers for Mustafi for a long time. Both of those only got a year left on their contract though, and it's going to be really difficult to move players on in the summer, especially when they've only got 1 year left, because the wages that are going to be offered from elsewhere, there's no way going to be matching what they're on at Arsenal. So financially, the players are going to look at it and think, well, I might not be playing for the next year, but I'm going to earn a hell of a lot more money if I stay here for another season. Then hopefully at the end of next summer, the financial outlook across the world will be far better, and there'll be more money for the clubs to be able to offer in terms of wages, and they won't have to worry about paying any sort of transfer fee because there'll be a free transfer. So that's the big issues that Arsenal face in terms of moving some of the players on who they may be open to selling. Like I said, Mustafi, Socrates, Rob Holding, I'm sure they'll probably be open to offers for, though I'd prefer to see him go out on loan and have a good full season under his belt and see what he can achieve then, because I've not forgotten how good Holding was when he came into the side. Aubameyang, I mean, that's a big one. What's going to happen with Orba? We don't know yet. He's not signed a new deal yet. Mikel Arteta's desperate for him to stay. Given what's happened, Arsenal are in a really difficult position with Orba, because financially they are not going to get the sort of offers that they were probably expecting from him in the summer, given what's gone on across football and how limited money's going to be. So then it really is a difficult position for Arsenal to be in. It's like, do you accept 20 million for a striker of Aubameyang's quality? Plus as well, that would mean getting his wages off the wage bill for a year. So basically, add another 10 million onto that. So you're sort of looking at 30 million saving, or 30 million extra pounds to play with this summer. But are you going to get a striker of Aubameyang's quality for 30 million? You're not. So you're hurting yourself again there. And if you've got more of a chance to qualify for Champions League next year, if you keep Aubameyang and then let him walk away in a free transfer, it's a really difficult situation. And that's why I'm talking. There's so much uncertainty. It's really difficult to sit here now and predict what's going to happen in Arsenal's transfer window, because there's just so much uncertainty still about how the end of the season is going to play out, how much money is going to be available, what players they might be able to move on, what's going to happen to Aubameyang. And as it stands right now, which obviously we're in June, it would usually be becoming crystal clear, but it's not, because we've still got 2 months of the season to play and the transfer window's not even open yet. So it's really difficult to predict, but there's so much still to happen in the next couple of months. One thing I wanted to talk about, I've seen a story, Kieran Tierney's been linked with a move away today. Arsenal apparently willing to sell Kieran Tierney already just a year after he signed for 25 million, potentially to Leicester. I'm not sure about this at all. I've got to say, Kieran Tierney, Arsenal have wanted Kieran Tierney for an awful long time. Getting him last year was the result of years of scouting, years of attempts to prize him away from Celtic. So to get him finally after all that, and then sell him after a year when he's not really played because he's been injured, but when he has played, he's looked very, very impressive, certainly going forward. He's only, I think he's 23 today, it's his birthday in fact, and he's on a long-term contract, and Tierney he's a good prospect, a really good prospect. I think Arsenal would be mad to sell him, and I don't see it. I just don't think there's much legs in the story. The only issue is that, given as what I've just been talking about financially, it might well be open season. Clubs might be willing to accept offers for players you would never expect just because they're not getting offers for anyone else. And so if suddenly a really tempting one came on the table, say for Tierney, they might think, well, we've got Kolasinac still. He's going to be difficult to move on because of his wages. Saka's been a revelation at left back, even though he doesn't want to play there. So maybe we could look to sell Tierney, but I'd still be very surprised. I mean, Mikel Arteta loves Tierney from what he's seen of him in training. You just have to remember the quotes. I can't remember, I haven't got them up here. But just go back and search for what Arteta said about Tierney a couple of weeks ago. When talking to Ian Wright on that Adidas sort of podcast video that they did, and he's everything that every box that Arteta wants from a player, Kieran Tierney ticks. Incredible work ethic, real quality on the ball, young, driven, committed. Everything that Tierney's got is a big tick next to Arteta's tick list. So I'd be really surprised. I think Kieran Tierney's here to stay, and I'd be very disappointed as well if Arsenal sold him, because he's a left back I've always admired. I've always wanted at Arsenal, and they finally got him after such a long wait. To then sell him a year later would be really disappointing and a wrong move for me. But again, we'll have to wait and see. That pretty much covers it. I've just had a bit of a ramble, and I hope it's given you some sort of clarity on where we are right now. I promised I was going to do a Q&A this week, but I've just run out of time to do it. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to do one. So I will next week try and get a Q&A done. I promise. So I'll put out a message on my Twitter. So please do go and find me on Twitter if you don't follow me already, at Charles_Watts. And I'll put out a question asking for your, or I'll put out a tweet asking for your questions and comments. If you want to get involved in the Q&A, then please do reply to that tweet, and then I'll go through them all at some point next week and record it and upload it on here. Big thank you to everyone who's followed me on this channel as well. I've had quite a few new subscribers in the last fortnight, so thank you very much for that. Really do appreciate it, and I hope that these videos are continuing to keep you updated and keeping you entertained when it comes to football, and hopefully, touch wood, fingers crossed, that in a not too distant future I'll be back at football grounds reporting from the press box. It's going to be interesting to see how that works. We don't know yet as a media. We're all waiting. It's going to be a bit of a bum fight, I think, to get in, because usually we're sitting in press boxes of 90, 100 journalists, but not going to be the case this time. It's going to be very strict numbers. I think you're looking at around sort of 20 journalists being allowed into games. So exactly how clubs decide and pick and choose who gets in, it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to cause a little bit of a I'm trying to think of the word, a little bit of a anger and confrontation when it comes to journalists who aren't allowed in on a weekly basis. But so yeah, I'm glad I'm not in that position, and it's club press officers who are having to make the decision on who gets in. But hopefully I'll be getting into some of the games, certainly the Arsenal home games anyway, and we'll be able to bring you some more videos from actually outside the four walls of my house, which I've been confined to, as we all have for the last few months. So thank you very much for following. Appreciate your support on this channel, and please do stay safe.